no life, no space, no peace, no good at all, the last of last. Welcome. We are starting the new series through the book of Revelation. And in this video, we're going to look at Revelation 13. If you have not watched the other videos in this topic, make sure to go back and watch those after this, so that you can get the context of what we're looking at herein. And if you haven't subscribed already, hit that subscribe button so that you won't miss any update on this. Now, in Revelation chapter 13, we're going to see a number of things. First of all, we're introduced to the beast out of the sea. We see its rise to power. We see some of the characteristics of that beast. We also then see in verses 11 through 18, we see the rise of another beast, the false prophet, and then ultimately the mark of the beast. So let's take a look at these verses and try to break them down so that we can understand what they mean for us today. Verse 1, "Then I saw a beast rise up out of the sea with 10 horns and 7 heads, and on its horns there were 10 diadems, and on each head a blasphemous name." So what is John seeing here? Well, he's seeing the rise of a great empire, a great kingdom, a great world leader that is going to oppose Christ and is going to persecute Christians. Now, the fact that it came out of the sea suggests that this empire will arise from a coalition of nations, maybe even an economic union or something like that. Then it tells us about this beast, that it had 10 horns and 7 heads. 7 is the number of perfection, and 10 is the number of completeness or totality. So it has 10 horns to 7 heads, and each one of those heads has a blasphemous name. This is a being that is totally opposed to God. It blasphemes his name. It does not honor God in any way. It rejects God. And then in verse 3, the first thing that this beast does when it comes to power is it begins to exercise its power against God's people. "And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and it had feet as of a bear, and as a mouth as of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power, and his seat, and great authority." So this beast is described as having the swiftness of a leopard, the ferocity of a bear, the loudness of a lion, and it receives its power from Satan himself. So again, this is a force, an opposing force to God that is going to persecute God's people. And then we see that this beast is given a fatal wound, but then it heals. And immediately after it heals, people begin to follow this beast. So this beast, although it's wounded, still is able to deceive people and convince them to follow it. And notice in verse 5, it tells us that it was allowed to continue on for 42 months, or 3.5 years, and then it's ultimately judged. Then in verses 11 through 18, we see the second beast, which is really the false prophet that deceives people into receiving the mark of the beast. And it's given power to perform great signs, even to the point where it can deceive those who dwell on the earth. And the biggest deception of all is that it makes the people receive the mark of the beast, whether it be on their hand or on their forehead. And this is a very serious thing, because whoever receives the mark of the beast will not be able to buy or sell, unless their name has been written in the book of life. So John gives us this warning in Revelation chapter 13. What is the significance of this for us today? Well, John is telling us that there will come a time where a great empire, a great kingdom will arise and persecute God's people. And he gives us a description of what that will look like. And there's no question that as we read through history, we see empires that fit this description. And John says there will be another one that arises in the future that will persecute God's people. The second thing that he says is that there will be a false prophet that will arise and deceive people into following this beast. And ultimately, the only way that you can oppose this beast is to reject the mark of the beast, which would be on your hand or on your forehead. And the only way that you could receive the mark of the beast is if you were participating in commerce, buying and selling. So what is John saying to us in this passage? He's simply saying, do not participate in the world system. Do not participate in what the world is doing, because if you do, you might end up supporting this beast that is opposing God. You might end up supporting a system that is set up by Satan himself. And so John gives this warning to us, and he says, don't do it. Don't participate in the world system. But the good news is that in Revelation chapter 14, we see the return of Jesus. We see Jesus coming back. We see him giving judgment on this beast and ultimately setting everything right. And so we live in the time between the judgment of the beast and the return of Jesus. And we're called to live holy, set apart lives separate from the world, because the world is only getting worse. The Bible says that in the last days men will be lovers of self, lovers of money, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, heartless, unappeasable slanderers, without self-control, brutal haters of good, traitors, reckless, conceited, and lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God. And that's why we need to live holy, set apart lives, because the world is only going to get worse and the return of Jesus is only going to get closer. And we need to be ready for his coming. Well, that brings us to the end of our study of Revelation chapter 13. If you have not watched the other videos in this series, make sure to go back and watch those. If you have any questions, please post those in the comment section below. Also, if you are not yet a member here, hit that subscribe button so that you are updated about the second coming all the time. And until next time, God bless you.